Hi friends. I just cleaned the whole house and I was trying to do it before it got dark so I could film this video. So if I'm a little bit out of breath, it's because I am. I have been trying to make this video for so long. I actually filmed it and then felt like I really wasn't structured enough to do the video. So instead I sat down for like an hour and I wrote everything out, outlined, so that this is an easier video to watch for you guys and so that you guys kind of understand what I'm saying. So this is really for people that are having trouble getting over the hump of getting past 500. And for me, I started with a 487, I'm pretty sure. And so for I can't remember 3 practice exams, I literally was not getting over 500, and even once I got to 500 I went backwards and hit 4 something, and then I finally got a 508 ending score. I have a video up on my channel of the 3-month documentary of my last 3 months studying, so if you guys want to watch that, I talk a little bit about my actual scores and what they were in the breakdown. This video is going to be dedicated to things I wish I did and things that I did do that made me improve my score. So I wrote this on my iPad. Tell me why it's downloading my note that I wrote about this. Guys, I'm gonna be so sad if I can't film this. Well, my document is gone forever into the ether because I can't find it on Notability. My iCloud backup literally acts like it never existed, and I had everything so detailed on that document. But because I wrote it, I'm gonna try to recall a lot of it. I'm sorry that this video won't be as organized as I'd hoped. And it's really out of my control because there's just no way for me to get that document back. I'm just going to start with going off the dome. So first of all, I wanted to say that look at the med school that you're thinking of going to, or your top 10 med schools, because not every med school needs above a 510. Now there's variations for what out-of-state schools need the out-of-state students to have or versus in-state. So make sure that you look at MCAT requirements and be realistic about what you can get in your MCAT score. So don't say I'm gonna get a 520 and aim for 520 like I did whenever really consistently I was not getting anywhere close to a 520, especially on my 4th and 5th exam. Lower the bar or raise the bar. You know, you might think that you won't do well and you'll do better, or you think you'll do better and you won't do as good. So don't get discouraged. People still get into medical school with a 500. I got in with a 508. I got 6 interview invitations. I only did 3 of them and I got accepted to 1 school, and I have not entertained any of the other schools once I got accepted because I really love the school that I got accepted to. So just want to calm you down by saying not every medical school needs you to have a really high MCAT score, okay? Also, MCAT and GPA can be balanced. So if you struggle on your MCAT and you have a great GPA, that can be taken into consideration by the admissions committee. So don't put everything, every hope you have into this MCAT. Do the best you can. If you have great extracurriculars, great volunteer, great shadowing, and you get a poor MCAT in your opinion, just again, think about what your school you're applying to requires and think about all your other factors. So I just want to not have so many people be discouraged, because it is kind of discouraging because you think that you need to get 528 and really it's not that type of exam. Really anything above the average, which I think is like a 500, maybe a 503, I can't remember, is average is good, but also above average is excellent. So just be easy on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Also, we're going to be splitting this video into timeline, study methods, Anki, Uworld, practice exams, as well as before the exam. So those are the sections we're going off of today. And with that being said, I just wanted to talk about the timeline. So when is your exam? Are you taking it in the spring? Are you taking it in the summer or the fall? And are you in classes? You know, these are things you need to consider whenever you think about when you're going to take your MCAT. So if you are sitting right now and it's March and you're going to take it in the summer in June, which is 3 months away, does 3 months feel like enough time? And what I'd say is don't spend less than 2 months on the MCAT, but don't spend more than 5 months. I think that the longer that you stretch it out, the more you forget, but the shorter time you have, you aren't giving yourself enough time to really think of everything. So really think about when you're starting and when your exam is, give yourself plenty of time. It's okay if you need to reschedule. It's okay if your plans change. I know it's expensive. Again, the MCAT is $330, and rescheduling is also money depending on how close you reschedule to your exam. But I would recommend rescheduling if you are currently scheduled now and you don't feel like you have enough time. So timeline is totally up to you when you want to take your exam. But again, I'd say no less than 2 months, no more than 5 months. With that being said, I rescheduled once. I also tried to study for like 6 months. I really feel like I only did the best studying I could do within the 5-month range of January to May. And I wasn't even studying that hard. So if you really kicked it into high gear and really studied for 5 months, I think you could get way better score than me. And some people do not need 5 months, but I'm one of those people because did I retain every single class in college for the prereqs? No, I did not remember anything. So for me, it was starting like completely brand new. Going into the next section is study methods. So you're gonna hear a lot of talk if you get on Reddit forums, which Reddit is like a big thing that a lot of MCAT people use, but content review and practice questions are the biggest things that help you to take the MCAT. So content review would be like the 8 Kaplan books that are all the subjects that are within the MCAT. Do I recommend reading all of the books? Do I even recommend reading 50% of the books? And that's just my personal opinion. Did I? I read probably 3 or 4 of the books and I do not feel like it helped. So content review is important, but I think it should really be practice problems supplemented with content. So what I mean by that is you're never going to feel ready to take practice problems. In our whole time in college, we've been like, I need to study and then I can take the practice exam. This is different. This is practice exam and then content review, because truly, you could read every single Kaplan book and you will still not know the answer to these questions, because it is really important that you understand what is the question asking, how is the question being worded, how is the MCAT testing me on these concepts, and can I use logic and content knowledge to answer the question. So first things first that I would do is I would start content right away. I used Uworld, so I can't speak on other softwares except for the AAMC bundle that came with practice questions, but I used that and I did not start practice questions until 2 to 3 months into my MCAT journey. I highly, highly regret that, because even when I read 3 or 4 of the Kaplan books and did like, I don't even know, 1,000 Anki cards, I still could not answer those questions. I feel like starting the practice problems is right away is the most important, and then using those Kaplan books as a resource, as well as using videos or whatever helps you learn this content as a supplement for the knowledge you don't know. And we'll get way into practice problems and Anki and all that stuff later in this video, but for me, I just want to say I think it should be 80% practice problems, 20% content. I know that feels wrong, but I just genuinely feel like the best way that you learn the content is through the practice problems. You know a lot more than you think, and it really becomes clear what you don't know whenever you start doing practice problems. So I just think that it's better to not overwhelm your brain with all the content that you've learned over the past 4 years, and instead just supplement the stuff you really, really don't know. So that's my advice on study methods. I advise doing 15 minutes a day at least, and then try to do more than 15 minutes, but even on the days you don't want to do MCAT at all, at least do 15 minutes. Because I promise you there will be such a huge improvement in your score if you're consistently staying with it every single day. I took a lot of breaks, and that reflects in my MCAT score. I think I could have done a lot better, but I was not in a good mental space, and I was tired and burnt out and in my senior year last semester of college, and I just kind of wanted to not like put all my attention into it. So that is my advice on study methods. The next section we're going to talk about is actually Anki. People have mixed reviews about Anki, so if you use it, great. I did. If you don't use it, that's fine, as long as you find another way to reinforce the knowledge on a repetitive basis. I will jump to that scene now. Hi, so this is the Anki section of the video. So I'm actually going to screen record my screen right now. So basically what I'm going to show you is what is Anki. So Anki is this one right here. So when I click on it, I can make it wider, of course. So this is what it looks like. So this software is made for flashcards. If you've ever used Quizlet, which is also an online flashcard database, you can also do the same thing, look up decks online and download them to this deck. So that's the only thing that's a little bit complicated about it. But what I am specifically going to do in this video is go to Reddit. So if you don't know what Reddit is something you should get because you can actually go to like different forums. So you could type in MCAT and then there's a bunch of threads of posts under MCAT that you can read about. This is like real life advice section. You can post something on there and a lot of people will comment back to you if you post it under a forum name. So this is how I found out about this. So there's this Jack Sparrow deck. So basically this deck has a bunch of flashcards. I think there might be 6,000 flashcards. And so what you do is you go to this drive, but obviously it says the newer deck that is corrected below. So I'm actually going to click on that. Then I'm going to press on this. And so what I'm going to be doing is downloading a file. Now don't just go on Reddit and like download any file because you just never know what a file is going to bring to your computer, so just always be pretty careful. But because I've done this before, I'm not really like that concerned. Then I can open this, and as you can see, it's processing it through Anki, and then when it's done processing, it's going to tell you everything that it added. And then as you can see, let me widen my screen right here. So as you can see, it's got everything. So let's talk about the features really quickly. So Decks is where you'll find all the things that we just downloaded. Add is where you can actually add your own. You do a front and a back. So that'd be like, what is 1 plus 2? Back would say 3. So that's kind of how that part works. And then it creates tabs. So you would just click out of add and then you're back to your home screen. Browse is if, say, you're looking for a specific card, you can actually type that in. It'll bring up that specific card instead of having to dig through every single deck. Because once you go through these, you'll realize there's so many decks and so many cards that you may need to use that feature. Stats will tell you how much are you studying, how many reviews are you doing, and this will make a little bit more sense. So this is like a whole statistical breakdown of how are you studying. So if we go back to Anki, sorry if you can hear my computer really rummaging. So I have my goal set to 40. If you can see by new. If you wanted to change that, you could go to options and you can change it to new cards per day. Maximum reviews per day. So once I have completed a card, it'll go from 40 to 39 and then you won't see that one card anywhere. So it goes away until the next day and then it'll come up as due instead of new because now that card is due for review. Sorry, that's a lot of rhyming words. But anyways, that's kind of how you can change your the amount of times you see a card. So as you can see, these are all split up into chapters. So what this is going off of is the Kaplan books. So chapter 1 of biochemistry all the way to biology. If you press this caret, you go through chemistry, organic chemistry, and physics. And then lastly, psych. I don't know that they really follow the psych Kaplan books, but those are there, basically memorization on different sections. So I highly recommend that you do biology just for a quick refresher because biology is memorization based. I recommend that you do some chemistry. You can kind of decide whether or not you feel like it's important because if you're going through sections and you're like, I don't really feel like this is helping me much, then just stop doing the deck. You don't have to do the deck. And you can actually delete decks by going to like, I would also really recommend doing some organic chemistry just to remember different reagents, different molecules. Some of that stuff is important. Again, each chapter you'll have to decide, like, is this an important chapter for me to be doing flashcards on? So what I did originally is I read the book, and then I read a chapter of the book, and then I did the flashcards for that book. I don't feel like that was necessarily unhelpful, but it took up too much time. I wish I would have been doing practice problems instead. So what I would do is go through and just actually see whether or not you think it's important. Again, if you look at the new ones, not every deck has 40 cards. Some have up to 500 cards per chapter. Some only have 27, as you can see here, or 34, as you can see there. So this is kind of how you use Anki. So how do I study? So let's go to psychology. You just press sensing the environment. You can just press spacebar. And the most important part is whenever you show an answer, which is also space, what cues are taken into account when perceptually organizing? Space, it tells you the answer, depth, form, motion, constancy, and then down here, these are important. So this, again, means you'll see it again before you end the deck. Hard means you'll see it again in 6 minutes after you're done with the deck. Good means you'll see it in 10 minutes, and then easy means you'll see it in 3 days. So 1 corresponds to again, and if you hover over, it says shortcut key 1, 2, 3, 4. It's all in a row. And then basically after I pressed 4, so it's easy, it'll show me the next card. Now if I were to get out of this Anki deck, and all I'd have to do is go back to decks, now you can see sensing the environment only has 39. So then tomorrow, that 1 card that I said was really easy, actually it'd be in 3 days, like it says, I'll see that card again in 3 days and it'll be in the do pile. So it can be very overwhelming to look at all this. You can also just close all of them except for the ones that you're working on. So if I just wanted to work on psych, it's a lot less overstimulating. And this helped me to kind of just keep seeing stuff. So hard stuff, I'd keep seeing over multiple days until I could move it to that easy pile, and then it would go further and further out. And then it just reinforces stuff that you already know. So the reason that I like Anki is because Quizlet doesn't keep track of it in this way. This is a really good thing to keep remembering things you already know and to keep yourself sharp. So that's my recommendation. Some people don't recommend doing all the Ankis. You can get on Reddit and read more about what people think and what people recommend, but in my opinion, I did almost all of them except the critical and reasoning skills and the units and the AMC spoilers. I don't know what those are about, but I did almost all the other ones except some of physics and some random ones, okay? So anyways, that's what I used, so let's go back to the video. The next thing we're going to talk about is Uworld. So I'm not sure who makes these questions. I'm pretty sure it's someone relevant to AAMC who makes the MCAT, so that's really good to know. You may not use Uworld, but you may use a different question bank. Just make sure that you are using one that has questions that are very similarly worded to the real MCAT. So I'm not sure what else there is other than the AAMC bundle and Uworld. Find something that reflects the MCAT structure very well. What I loved about Uworld is it actually made the questions look like the MCAT questions, so everything is exactly the same. So a little bit about Uworld. It looks like this. And so as you can see, you can select different concepts to test on. So you'd select a box and then you'd select how many questions you want to do, and then you press start. You could set it up to be like an actual MCAT section. So you could select the amount of questions and it would give it to you like a real MCAT section. So that's a good way. I also didn't do that. I don't think it really matters, in my opinion, if you're taking the practice exams as well. So the Uworld to me was just like a question bank. So you can select so important thing to note about this software, if you select 3, it'll give you 3 discrete questions. And what I mean by discrete question is, gosh, why can't I think of a question? What is the name of your cat? Boo, Lucy, Reggie, Bear. You see what I mean? Like, that's a discrete question versus a passage with 4 questions that go with it. So if you select less than 3, it'll give you individual discrete questions. If you select more than 3, so 4 or more, it'll give you a passage with questions that go along with the passage. So for me, what I did is I actually did all the discretes for each section first to ease my way into it. So I didn't feel comfortable doing the passages yet, so I just did discretes. And I don't think that's wrong. I think it is nice to save some of the discretes for when you take like actual section ones if you wanted to, but I don't think there's anything wrong with just doing discretes. So if you're not feeling comfortable jumping headfirst into a passage, you can do discretes of chemistry, discretes of psychology and sociology and all those type of things. Obviously for cars, the critical and analysis skills, those will not be discrete because they're only passage based because you're reading a section and you're answering questions. An important thing that I think a lot of people don't do, which actually reflects in their score, is review. So I think it's very important to, after you finish a set of questions, so say I took 10 questions and I'm done and it just gave me my percentage, which Uworld is harder than the actual MCAT, so it will reflect less than 50% for a section that you do of these practice questions because they're hard and it actually makes taking the MCAT easier. So after you get that back, I always go through and I see what made the right answer the right answer. Read the explanation of why the answer is correct, but also read the explanation of why the wrong answers were not right. Because a lot is shown in why did they choose this answer to put in there that's wrong versus another answer. Sometimes they're trying to trick you, and then also knowing why the right answer is important. So after each question, whether I got it right or wrong, I still go through every single question, make sure that I truly understand the explanation. If I couldn't regurgitate a similar explanation as what they gave me, then I need to put it in a flashcard somewhere so that I can consistently see that. And that's what I mean by that's where you supplement the content. So if I didn't understand and never had even seen a concept before, I would mark it on a list and create a problem list, and I would be like, something I've never heard of is this pathway. And then I'd keep a list of all of my problem topics and I just keep them so that I knew what I needed to go back and review later. You could use the Kaplan books to go back and review, or you could use YouTube videos, but it's important to remember the stuff that you don't remember. Keep track of it some way. If you like flashcards, use flashcards, but also keep a list, I think, is really important to go back to review on days that you need to just do content. So that's how I did the practice problems. Is I would do a set of questions, take the concepts, copy and paste images into Anki, and I would also keep a list of everything that I did not understand or had never heard that I knew I needed to go back and like actually in depth watch videos on, because although they give you explanations, sometimes it's not enough. So that's what I mean by adding it to the list and going and actually like researching, finding videos that make me truly understand. And then if something from that video or from the Kaplan book really like sparks something, then you can add it to your Anki deck. That's exactly what I did. For Uworld, there are 3,000 questions, I'm pretty sure, which is pretty crazy, but don't feel like you have to take all of them. You can obviously finish all of them, that would be great, that'd be ideal, but try to set a limit for yourself of how many you want to do per day and try not to go below the limit. It gets very overwhelming as you get closer to the exam. Make it easier on yourself and do as many as you can every day, and try not to miss days, and if you do miss days, try to make up for it the next day, because it is really overwhelming when you're close to the exam, don't have a score you like, and you still have like 1,000 questions to 2,000 questions to 3,000 questions left. So make sure that you're really putting in the time and the effort. And I know it sucks. Like literally, I hated doing it, and I am on the other side of it now, so I seem like I know more or feel differently about it. No, it sucked. It literally sucks so bad, like I have PTSD. Just try to get through it. Remember that none of this will matter after you get your MCAT score. I am going to medical school, and I'm not stuck in that moment where I had to do those practice problems. I know that's where you're at right now, but I promise you, you'll get to the other side and the grass is greener over here. Just try to really motivate yourself by getting it done and keep that like mindset of it will be better when I just do this and get it over with. So moving on to practice exams. So I'm actually going to say a similar thing, except for this, it's actually got to be more formal. What I think is you need to take it like a real MCAT. There is a way to take these practice exams that are most accurate. When you get the AAMC bundle, this is the only way to get the practice exams, unfortunately, but when you get the AAMC bundle, it gives you 5 practice exams. So this is the order that I took them. Now there's controversy of which ones you take, but I know for sure that you should take the scored sample test last. The first way you take it, I don't really know. I did FL1 as my first because it's scored and that gives you an idea of where's your starting point at. So the FL1 for me, I got a 487. Then the second exam that I took was the unscored sample test, and that is something that it doesn't give you a score at the end. I actually went to a score calculator online somewhere. I just looked up MCAT score calculator, and then you can put in what you got for each section and it'll kind of give you an estimate of like what would your score have been if it was scored. So then after I take that, I take FL2, FL3, FL4. Sorry, there's 6 practice exams. Then you take the sample scored practice exam that comes with the bundle. So those are the 6 that you take. First, we'll talk about how to take the exam. So whenever you take the exam, it is set up exactly the same way as a real MCAT. The way it looks, the breaks, everything is the same. So you need to dedicate at least 7 hours to this exam. The first thing that I did was I powered off my phone. I got snacks ready, drinks ready, and then whenever it was a section time, I went to a quiet place, I took the exam. I took it till the time ran out, usually because I needed that much time. When the break came, you get an option to actually not take the break, so you could actually stay in the room and go on to the next section. But I always took the break. I would get up and I would never get on my phone, but I would take a drink, I would eat a snack or whatever. And what's really important is to not cheat. If you cheat, it's not going to be a good example of your score. So take it for real, like, you know, study as much as you want beforehand. And then once you see your score, because the last section, you press done and there's your score. Whatever your score is, whether it's what you wanted or what you didn't want, shut your computer and take the rest of the day off because you just took a 7-hour-long practice exam. And you got 6 more to go. So, you know, just like take a breather, take the night off, do something fun with your friends. Don't let the score get you down. This is a practice exam. Even if it's not what you want, you still have time because it's a practice exam. So what I would recommend, take the night off, then the next 2 to 3 days, open the thing back up and you can actually go through and review, and it does the same thing as Uworld where it tells you why the right answer is right and why the wrong answers are wrong. And you need to go through every single question, not just wrong questions, but right questions as well. Because you can be a lucky guesser, and it's not good to be a lucky guesser and never review what you got right. So again, I go through, I keep that problem paper list with me as well as my Anki, and then I just go through, and every single time I encounter something I'd never heard of or something that I kind of forgot about, I add it to the Anki or I add it to the problem list, and I kind of like try to rationalize and, you know, understand what they were looking for. And then a lot of the times you'll have moments like, oh shoot, of course. But I promise you, you will not get better if you don't review your practice exams. Taking the practice exam is only half of it. You could take all the practice exams, it will not make you a better MCAT performer. You have to review, you have to carry on that knowledge to the next practice exam. And I think that is a lot of the reason why people don't see improvements over time is by not reviewing. That is really, really good material to review. It's made by AAMC. Like, take advantage of the fact that they just gave you so many practice problems that you answered and you can review. Make sure that you really utilize that time afterwards when it's still fresh in your mind and you can just review it and get it over with and then start studying again. For those practice exams, I think it's really important to space them out a month apart if you can, or at least 2 to 3 weeks apart. I think it's good to give yourself some time to work on practice problems before you do your next one. Otherwise, are you going to see a lot of improvement with your score? That's why I think 5 months is a good time so that you can take those exams spread out. And I actually took my last practice exam a week before my actual exam. I don't know if I recommend that or not. I don't think it mattered. I think it is really important to spread out those exams with the time you have allotted yourself to study, because it is really important to see, like, is more studying helping? Is it hurting? You have the same amount of time between each exam, so you can really see if there is an improvement. The last sample scored test that I said to take, the 6th one, this is really important to take last because it is the most like the MCAT. It is the most recent type of MCAT. I think that they gave you an MCAT from 2022, which it might even be sooner now, I'm not sure. This will be the most reflective of your actual MCAT score. So this will tell you pretty much what your MCAT score will be. Moving on to, you have a month before your exam or a week, you just took your last practice exam, you reviewed it. What do you do now? I think that this is a really good time to utilize your Anki cards as well as your problem list. Go through and truly understand those concepts you don't know. Every single thing on that list is testable. And I know we don't want to think about it like this, but they could give you an exam with every single thing on that list on the exam. So really try to fit in your head. I know your head is going to feel so full of stuff, but really try to spend that last week really remembering the stuff you don't know. Watch biochemical pathways. That was a problem for me. Memorize a physics equation sheet. Really make sure that you understand the stuff that you could be tested on, I guess. And then the day I studied, people have different feelings about how close you should study to the exam. I studied the night before. Not everybody feels that way. Whatever is best for you and most comfortable for you. If you won't be comfortable not studying, then study. If you won't be comfortable studying, then don't study. I don't know. It's a personal preference. Doesn't matter. I don't know. But I think that whatever makes you most comfortable is the most important. Morning of, make sure that you know where your testing center is. Give yourself enough time to drive there. And then bring a lunchbox. You can bring a lunchbox. You get a locker. You can don't bring in your phone. But basically this is what it's going to look like. Well, you're going to get a number. You're going to sit. They wait for you. You go up there. And I think you present your ID and maybe something else. I don't remember. But then they give you a number, you go to that number and then put your stuff in the locker, and then they bring you back. They also get your handprint, so every time you go in and out of the testing center, you have to scan. And then you do get to sit out in the like little chair area that you initially started, and that's where you take your breaks. So it can be a little intimidating. I know that they give you noise canceling headphones as well as like a pad that you can actually erase and use a dry erase marker. That's kind of how the exam is set up. Anyways, I think that you guys all have got it, and I'm sorry that this video wasn't as organized as I wanted it to be. I tried to remember everything I wrote down, but obviously if there's any questions still, you can leave them in the comments below. And I really hope this was helpful, and I just remember feeling like how you guys feel, and it sucked, and I just know that you guys can get through it because, I don't know, you just gotta get through it. And if you believe in yourself and you have a good support system and you really find it deep inside yourself to find discipline and to have discipline and to really give it all you have while you study as well as when you take it, then I think that you will do great. And yeah, I'm so excited. I know it's not exciting at all, but I'm excited for you guys to get on the other side because I want to see you guys in the medical field someday, and we're all practicing doctors and collaborating and stuff. So anyways, use this video in whatever way you want, as motivation or as information. I'm not sure if this was helpful. Let me know if it was helpful though down below, what parts that you didn't think about or what parts were helpful. I don't know. So anyways, more videos to come. I'm going to talk about applying to medical school in a video coming up. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see me move into medical school, go on my medical school tour, and talk about applying to medical school. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys super soon. Bye!